What up, family? Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's that time of day, guys, where Podkrew comes back into the podcast. V. Oh, y'all see what I did there? Hello, guys. How are you?
What up?
Guys,
what's up?
It's I think we can agree that today is going to be one of our favorite months for this podcast. Because guys, a topic that we're all pretty familiar with when it comes to tragedies, murders, mysteries, guys. It's that spooky season. Today, our topic is about murder or mystery. How we're going to dive into it is we're going to go ahead and talk about some stories that we found out, and we're going to judge them to see if they are in fact murder or in fact a mystery. And if they're both, we're gonna talk to you guys about some facts today, about our thoughts. Please feel free in the chat and comment section as well to tell us about what you guys think about it. And you know, Z is gonna also attend to those comments and questions, so that we can also bring that up as well. But I'm gonna call out somebody first because I know she loves this month more than any of us. Venus, tell me about the first story that you got.
Yeah, we're gonna jump in. You're right. This is my my pet subject. I was very excited for this season, as always. I wanted to go on in with a classic today. Like, it's maybe some might say a little overdone, a little over talked about, but I still find it fascinating. And this would be Amityville House, or as some may know this story better as the Amityville Horror. It's been made into a ton of movies. I don't know. Have you guys seen any of the Amityville Horror movies?
No.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
This might make you mad. I've never heard of it.
You've never heard of it?
I've never heard of it.
What?
I need you to tell me what it is. I've
Wow.
never. I knew you were gonna judge me. You shut up.
Z, no, I need more judgment from you, please.
No, wait, hold on.
Pat, please,
I've honestly never heard of this story.
I can't believe that.
I know, and I'm a big horror guy.
This is bonkers.
Please tell me.
continue.
This is
Continue.
crazy. This is a very well-known, I would venture to say probably one of the most well-known American haunted house stories. So we'll go all the way back to 1974. In 1974, there was a family living in this house in Amityville, New York, and this family was the DeFeo family. And one night, the gentleman, probably not a gentleman, the man Ronald J. DeFeo Jr., who was living there, he was part of this family. He murdered all of them in one night. 2 parents, 4 siblings. Everyone was in their beds. He used a rifle to do this. So if you kind of imagine it it's horrific, but if you imagine someone walking through a house, it's a relatively large house too. It was a, very I wouldn't say a mansion, but an older historical roomy house, right? Yeah. Walking through this whole house, popping off rifle shots, killing people one by one in their beds. Wouldn't you think that someone would have woken up and to the first shot? You know what I mean? A rifle shot is not quiet. That's a loud sound. So it was odd, right? They all were found in their beds. He murdered all of them. Very sad. Very, very sad. Very creepy then that 13 months later, the Lutz, I've heard it pronounced a lot of ways. The Lutz family purchased this home. They only lived there for 28 days before they moved out because they were terrified, because they said this house was haunted. And it all kind of circles back to these murders that occurred, because Ronnie said that voices he said that voices in the house told him to kill his family. And then this other family moves in and they can't even stay there longer than a month because they were seeing weird things. They were hearing voices. There's cold spots in the house. They said that it started slow. Everything seemed normal at first. And then, and they did get the house at a very reduced price because of the DeFeo murders that had happened there. So this was a great thing for them. They got this beautiful house for a really good deal. And it was a serious investment for them. To do what they did and leave after 28 days financially ruined them. But they were terrified. They even passed a lie detector test telling the story of what had happened there. Slime oozing down the walls, eventually objects moving, members of the family hearing voices telling them to do violent things. Yeah, and they bolted. They left. They even had, before they left, they had a priest come and like bless the house. And the priest allegedly heard a voice scream, "Get out!" And he told them like, "Don't ever sleep in that room." Like he heard something yell at him. And he basically like left that house like shaken up. Like he was freaked out.
Where did this
Uh,
take place?
this took place in Amityville, New York, so the
Okay.
Northeast. Yeah.
Is the
So
building still like up today?
it is. The building is still up today. It's had a few different owners, and I think it just recently sold for about $600K, like in the past few years. But like, yeah, it's had private owners ever since. So that's like part of the interesting thing, right? Is like there hasn't been like continued over the decades, like reports of other things happening. But that whole series of events was definitely like very strange. Murder or mystery. Did Ronnie kill his family or was he possessed?
Wait, hold
And
on. So hold on. Now I'm intrigued. So
yeah.
wasn't it factual that he killed his family?
It was factual. Yeah. He
Okay.
walked through the house and shot them with the rifle. Yeah.
And so this is just straight murder. I mean, is there a mystery behind it? I'm like looking for more lore.
More
Honestly.
lore.
Yes, I am. I'm looking for more lore.
Well, it's the fact that he's possessed, right? That's the whole
Oh,
thing behind
okay.
it.
So he claimed that he had
He
voices in
said
his
he
head
heard
saying,
voices that told him to do it, right? Which on its own, right, just stand alone as an event, you would, I think most reasonably, most people would be like, oh, well, that could be, a mental health issue. You're hearing
Yeah.
voices, and yet,
Nah.
but it's the family that buys it and then can't live there because they say it's so terrifying, and they report like similar things, like to include like these creepy voices. That is sort of where that's where the question comes in. That's where it makes you wonder if there was more going on in this house, that maybe, I don't know, maybe somehow throughout these events, this entity like got what it wanted, or maybe it's settled now, and maybe that's why nothing else has happened. Maybe the private owners don't like live there. Maybe they bought it because they just are like intrigued. Like, there are people who are big into collecting all kinds of wild stuff. So maybe no one lives there. I don't know.
Would
The
you
address
buy
was changed,
would
but
you buy
would
a
I buy it?
Yeah.
I would, if I had the money to do that and not live
Nah.
there. Oh, I'd have to live there?
Yeah, you'd have to live there.
You know,
The fact that
I
you're
don't
even like considering, you're crazy.
but I'm
Like,
intrigued.
no.
I'm
No.
intrigued.
What, you're intrigued to hear voices in your
Well,
head?
wasn't there another story that is like that, where the guy's whole response is the devil made him do it?
Yes, that actually leads me into another story I was going to touch on tonight. So this one also has been like made into movies. So some people may recognize the story. The Devil Made Me Do It is the second Conjuring movie. So this story is what they base that movie off of. I don't know, have you guys seen The Conjuring 2?
Yes, I
Mhm.
think you're talking
Okay.
about the third one though,
Oh,
because the
am I
second
wrong?
one has to do with them going
Yeah,
to London
yeah, I was about to say, how did that relate to 2? I
or
haven't
to
seen the third one.
England.
I've seen the second, but I thought, yeah.
Yeah,
That is my
the
bad.
third one is titled "The Devil Made Me Do It."
There's so many of those movies, and I recently
Yeah,
binged
but
all
they're
of them with
amazing.
Annabelle and everything, and so I got a little blurry.
They're so
Thank you
much
for the
fun.
correct. They are. They're really fun. And yeah, so this one was about like, so this took place in Connecticut, and it was in the 80s, right? And recently, as I got to pepper this in too, recently Netflix released a documentary about this, the real story behind the story they made the Conjuring movie after. And Netflix interviewed like the people that were directly involved with this. So it was really interesting to kind of see like that real story angle of it. So I don't know if anybody's caught that on Netflix. If you have, you'll know what I'm talking about.
JoJo definitely has.
I thought it was really interesting. So Connecticut, right? Okay. David Glotzel, 1980. He's 11 years old, and he goes over to his sister and soon to be brother-in-law's house, and he feels a presence. He feels something is off, something is not right. But he's 11 and like he's scared, so he like leaves. He runs out. And his family's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "I don't want to be here. Like I have a really bad feeling. Like I don't want to be here." So later on, he like came to tell people, he came to relay that he had seen that later that night, like a devil. He saw like this entity that his eyes were black, like he said, solid black, like a chunk of coal. And like this creature scared him, absolutely terrified him. And then he went on to like display a lot of like both like haunted or like as they some say obsessed is like the stage that this had the
Mhm.
obsession. And then on to full on possession. So like screaming obscenities, having a different voice, like his body doing weird things. And he was like expressing like that he was very distressed. So his mom actually contacts the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are like obviously the stars of this
She's
Conjuring.
wild. Just want to state
She,
that she's
yeah,
wild.
real people. Um,
Yeah. She's
Lorraine
wild.
Warren was a medium and Ed was a demonologist. And they like what they did for a living. Like they went around to people who said like they had hauntings of some kind, obsession, haunted, whatever, and they would go investigate that. They would go figure out what was going on. So they came, performed an exorcism on David. So like they came and verified, like they experienced stuff there.
What?
They were like, yo, no, this is not good. Like he's possessed. So they got the permission of the Catholic Church to perform an exorcism on David, the 11-year-old. They do the exorcism. During the exorcism, his sister's fiance, soon to be his brother-in-law, is there at the exorcism, and he like grabs the kid and yells like, get out of him, you take me on. He like challenges this entity, and that was the end of the exorcism. Like David was fine after that. Immediately Lorraine Warren was reported to have been like super freaked out. She was like, no, like you're not supposed to do that, that's bad, this is going to end badly. Ed and Lorraine even went to the local police department and said, like, this is what we witnessed. And we're like warning you, like, this guy, his name was Arnie. Arnie was the sister's boyfriend.
Mhm.
They said something with him is going to go badly. There's going to be a crime. There's going to be violence. And that was all they could do was like
They
give that
foresaw
warning.
that.
Yeah, because he invited the devil in. He said, take me on. And the devil was like, and they call
Hold my
that
beer.
transmigration. Yeah. So the devil jumped into Arnie, and then 5 months later, Arnie is living with David's sister, so Arnie's girlfriend, and they have a landlord named Alan, and Alan lives there with them. And Arnie stabs Alan 4 times, and he kills him. And he's just found walking down the road covered in blood. Police pick him up, and he is
Wow.
convinced that someone else did it. He's like, he's like, what am I in
No
for? What's going
shot.
on? He like has no idea what happened. And they tell him what he did because the sister even witnessed it. She did see that he stabbed Alan, but she said it was off. Like he was not himself, right? Like, and it was
Mhm.
random. It was like, so yeah. So then he's arrested because he did stab Alan. But then this goes on to become the first time in America, in the United States, that a legal defense was entered for a not guilty by reason of demonic possession.
Mhm.
This did not actually like go all the way to like that plea didn't make it to trial. The judge ended up disallowing any evidence related to any demonic anything. So while he didn't outright reject the not guilty plea, he made it impossible for them to try that case. So they ended up changing it to self-defense. Got 10 to 20 years, but he's out now. He was in this documentary that Netflix did. Yeah, so another fascinating case, and again, this one in Connecticut, where murder or mystery.
So my question to both of you, I do you guys believe in possessions? Or do you feel, it could be a form of illness? And I know that's hard to answer, but like, what do you truly believe in?
I want to believe it. There's a part of me that really wants to believe it
So what makes you not believe it?
because all of that stuff has happened. For the most part, all of that stuff has happened before we can make it as public as things can be made now.
As well
And
documented. Yeah.
yes, as well as now, there's just not that big of a belief in religion.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that don't believe or don't want to believe in religion or God or the devil or anything like that. So, because like all these big exorcisms, they happened before our time. They
Yeah.
happened when there were only tape recordings. There were no video recordings. And then like what's that one famous one, the Annalise one? I don't know if you guys have ever heard it, but there's this one there's this one exorcism of Annalise, which was the direct inspiration to the Exorcist movie. And they have recorded tapes of the whole situation that lasted months. Now, you hear her and she sounds like she's possessed, right? But then you start reading up on it, and she was malnourished the entire time. She was actually tortured throughout the whole situation. She was pretty much living in stained clothing the entire time because she was just forced to live in one certain room the entire time of the exorcist, or the exorcism, I should say. And she ended up dying from malnourishment. Uh, and no one besides the church ever really considered it a uh, demon that was in her. So it's stuff like that that makes me want to believe it. But when you get a bunch of facts revolving around it, it's difficult to actually believe it.
Yeah. I I'm on the same boat, but I feel like I'm more towards believing it than not believing it.
Okay.
Unless you're really good at acting, and because I know I can do a little bit of acting, but my body can't twitch like that. You know what I mean? So
You can't do a backbend? You can't turn
no,
your head all the way around?
nah, I'm
No?
old,
But
man.
you
I'm-
also
I'm-
haven't you also haven't been starved for weeks or months on
exactly.
end.
I haven't gone through that experience,
So who
but
knows how you would react?
and here's the biggest thing. And so and what makes it hard for me to believe it is that I haven't been around people who've also experienced it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like it's always been like from a faraway place or a person that I didn't know. In the rare occasion that I know somebody around like the area, but it's just for me, it's just like I always heard these stories, but why doesn't it happen around where I'm at?
Yeah, right?
You know what I mean?
That's the one that makes me want to, but then I don't end up doing it just because there's just so much around it that keeps me divided.
Exactly. Like not that I'm looking for it, you know what I mean? Like keep that shit away from
What do
me.
you mean?
But
You're not gonna go live in a haunted house?
nah, so that's what I was gonna tell you. You are crazy. We're gonna go back to that statement because I know nobody should be like, I want to live here and potentially die. Like that's not a thing. So but do you believe in possessions, crazy lady?
Oh, the honor crazy lady. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I'm in a similar boat, like kind of on the like I want to believe, but I haven't like I've personally never been possessed or known anybody to be possessed. So yeah, getting that like foolproof evidence, that hard evidence, either someone you directly know that you have like a sense of like, who they are and like, I don't know. Or the other thing too, though, that I always come back to is like, what if, and hear me out, what if these entities, these things, these dark forces, whatever you want to call them, what if they know perfectly well that if they were well documented enough to be convincing to the average reasonable person that we would like unite against them? Like we would believe, like that would be enough of a reason to like, I don't know, to care. Like I don't know if you're going with the canon of it, they
Damn.
wouldn't want that. So, what if they're avoiding? What if they intentionally avoid? I don't know. It's thoughts like that I can't get out of my head. The other thing I come back to is that like there is stories along these lines from all cultures all over the world going back for as for a very long time, almost as long as stories have been able to be recorded. You can find something that's paranormal or questionable or some sort of a dark entity that is affecting or interacting with human beings. And so part of me also thinks like, if this is such a universal experience that you hear about it from every corner of the earth, like maybe there's something to that. So I don't know. There's compelling things about it that make me think that I gotta stay open minded. I can't be
So you truly believe that some sort of phenomena, and I'm not knocking you down for this because that's now I'm intrigued by your statement. So you truly believe that some sort of phenomena out there has that much intelligence to where they can divine what we can do and know a limitation.
I would say that I don't
'Cause
think so highly of
that
myself
is
to think that I know enough that I could rule it out. Like, I haven't seen everything. I haven't been
that is
everywhere. So, like,
wild.
I can't let go of the reasonable doubt of, like,
You
I
gotta
haven't seen it.
you gotta think about this too, so think about, like, the mindset of, like, murders, serial killers, like, what they go through, how they plan, and
Mhm.
there's some well thought plans out there to where, like, they haven't been caught X amount of years until a
Forever.
slip up because of, maybe the need to do it again and again, and they can't just let that feeling go. So,
Mhm.
having that said, like, that your statement just, like, opened up my mind. I'm a little blown right now
Mind blown. There
because
you go.
the fact that if that can happen, what makes you think that other, like, quote unquote entities can or can't do that, you know?
And on a side note to this, as Jojo commented, he said he told Colony a story about him in high school when he woke up and went to the bathroom and his eyes were pitch black.
Pitch black.
Like, in the mirror, like, in the reflection of
Yeah,
his own eyes. Bro, that's scary.
So
See
right?
it has to happen, like, so at one point you end up experiencing something that a lot of other people won't believe, right? Like, there's something in each individual life that you've experienced that dealt with some form of, like, a spirit world. Whether it was a good one, a bad one, a memory, foreseeing the future, stuff like that. And so, like, I can't imagine, like, JR having pitch black eyes and, like, but for him, like, I would believe him, but I'm like, how would that happen? How does that even happen? You know what I mean? There was nobody there but him to witness it. So, and that's the biggest thing for me. And speaking of mysteries, I wanna do a little throwback to a not so happy place called Alcatraz. I'm pretty
Mm.
sure everybody has heard of it. And the mystery there, and I'm gonna tell you guys some facts of what was said, and you guys are gonna tell me if you guys think if you believe it or not, or if they were found or not. So the three escapees. I don't know if anybody's has heard of the story. Um, but essentially, one of the greatest mysteries in the 20th century, in 1962, convicted bank robbers Frank Morris, John Anglin, and his brother Clarence Anglin made it to the water, freeing themselves within Alcatraz. But did they swim out alive or drown? That was actually one of the largest newspaper titles that was actually there for over half a year. A newspaper title for being over half a year of asking, did they swim out alive or did they drown? And nobody knows till this day if they escaped or survived, which is the wild part. So let me give you a couple facts of stating if this is enough to make you feel like if they actually drowned or if they were alive. In 1975, there was a lead of a photograph taken of the two in Brazil, right? Although that so as they were younger, verse 1962 versus 1975, that's a big gap. You know what I mean? Like, you could look so different then. Um, Although the lead was hard to believe by any person or any personnel that was in the government or who was involved in the case. The next lead was a dying man that dictated his role of the escape plot to a nurse on his deathbed confession. So, how he explained how he and an accomplice pulled the escapees out of the water into a boat waiting in the bay. Now, that's just his word, right? So, who cares? That may or may not be irrelevant. Is he may be looking for, like, exposure to himself, whatever. But this was confirmed by a retired San Francisco police inspector named Robert Checky, who saw at first an abandoned white boat on the night of the escape. After a few minutes, Robert Checky quoted on an interview, "A spotlight or big flashlight flashed on and off into the water, but never on the boat." Robert was unaware of the escape until the next day. He filed a report and spent an entire day answering FBI questions, et cetera, et cetera. But he also never read the deathbed confession.
Ooh.
That was never released to him. Um, and so with that being said, do you feel, and that's all the evidence that they had. That's all the evidence that they had. And so to me, do you feel like they're alive or do you feel like they're dead?
You know, here's what grabs me. Here's what sells me entirely. Deathbed confession. Like, a deathbed confession is not a light thing. Like, you're dying. These are your last words. To think that someone would waste their last words on a lie is sort of inconceivable to me.
You
So
would
like,
be so surprised though.
really?
You would
What
be
do you
so
mean?
surprised. So imagine this, you didn't really have a lot to offer, right? You're an accomplice, you're in jail. Like,
Mhm.
you know, like you did something wrong. You may matter to some people, but you weren't able to fulfill your whole life of what you wanted to do, maybe because of something that you did wrong,
Mhm.
of knowing or unknowing that you did it. And so how would it feel if I was involved in that story?
Are you asking me if I think you would lie on your deathbed?
Yeah. Yeah. How would you feel
Damn.
if I was involved in that story? Put my name out there to be on the newspaper.
I would like to think you wouldn't lie on your deathbed, but now I'm starting to
Yeah.
question if
Well,
I know
so
you well enough.
right.
pretty
So
sure-
like me, no. Like that's what I'm saying. So obviously for me, no, I wouldn't do that. But like
Oh,
think of
okay.
that mindset
Yeah.
towards someone else.
Okay. I
Like
see what you mean.
so like you're just taking this guy's word. I helped him out. I did this. I did that. I'm going to tell it to the priest. I want the whole world to know. My name's going to go big on this paper. You know what I mean?
Infamy. Mhm.
So I don't know.
That's
I don't know. I personally don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Z?
I'd believe it just because we got no other reason not to at this point. I
Okay.
mean, he's gone. Like, it's
living their best life in Brazil.
yeah, yeah. Just I would believe it. I don't see a reason not to at this point. At the point when it was finally released, you know.
I just
It's crazy that they never found them though. Like you'd think
right?
like go send some FBI agents down to Brazil. I don't know. Like don't they do that kind of thing? Isn't that what they're
I would assume
supposed
though
to be doing?
after almost, you know, like 60 plus years,
Mhm.
50 plus years, does it matter?
Yeah, I mean this maybe the
Yeah.
statute of limitations depends on their like yeah, they did.
Doesn't
I don't
matter.
know.
Isn't that wild? Like, so at this point, if how I saw it, honestly, how I saw it was, oh, it's been 50 years. Fuck it. We got more shit to do.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not advocating for them to be like
I'm not
locked
either,
up.
but isn't
Let
that
them chill,
wild?
but
Yeah,
that is wild.
it's wild
Like,
that it's come down to that.
right. Like
And so they were just, you know, they were bank robbers. Now, do I know if they killed somebody or not? That information I have not found, nor do I know if it's released or not. But to know that I can get away with it, just hide for 50 years, you know, grab me a mill off the bank. That's just I don't that's a whole mystery to me, and I don't know.
I'd like to do a little because you know on the topic of you know disappearances, I'd like to give my first story on this. If you're done with Alcatraz,
I'm ready. I like people disappearing, not in that way. No,
there is it's not entirely a disappearance, but you know you'll listen to this.
okay.
So a steamship built in 1918 was registered in Sumatra, then part of the Dutch East Indies, now known as Indonesia. In 1948, the SS Orang Medan sent out a distress call that was picked up by various ships and shore stations in the region. The distress message was unusual in that it contained only two sentences. All officers, including the captain, are dead lying in the chart room and bridge. Possibly whole crew dead. The message was followed by a burst of indecipherable Morse code and then silence. A rescue ship was dispatched to find the Orang Medan. When the rescue crew arrived, they found the ship with no signs of life on board. The ship's decks were littered with dead bodies. The condition of the corpses had their eyes open and staring. Their faces were twisted in terror and their limbs were rigid and contorted. Some of the bodies had their arms outstretched as if they were reaching for something, and others had their mouths gaping in a silent scream. The rescue crew decided to tow the Medan to port, but before they could, a fire broke out into the ship's cargo hold. The rescue team had to abandon ship, and moments later, it would explode and sink. There were no survivors or explanation of what happened. And it was outside of Indonesia. What are your thoughts on this? Now, a little sidetrack before you guys continue. This was not the inspiration to a movie called Ghost Ship.
Thank you. I was
It
going to
was-
ask.
It was a different one. It was called the SS Andrea. That was the one that was direct inspiration because it was an actual luxury cruise ship. That was the one, not this one though. But this one was inspiration to a video game called Man of Medan, which was part of an anthology series on the Until Dawn video game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't think that this was actually a real story until I looked it up.
That's wild.
They weren't able to recover anything?
Nothing.
Because the fire. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
the fire destroyed everything. That's so crazy. How, like,
Just randomly,
It just
right?
everything just disappeared because generally
Yeah.
speaking, within a fire or in the ocean, like you would see like stuff-
Debris.
debris.
Yeah.
If you
I wonder how
swam
many
deep
witnesses
enough,
there were, like the ones that saw the ship and made all these observations before the fire. Like, I wonder how many people walked around and saw all this.
The one part that really makes me curious is the Morse code that they just couldn't decipher it.
That's creepy. That's super creepy.
Like, what if that had the answer to what exactly happened?
I would love, you know what?
And they
now
haven't
you're
cracked
making
it
me
till
want to
this day.
study it. I want to study this Morse code, and I want to see if I can.
I need to know. They haven't. So they have that Morse code still today, right? Like,
No. Because if they did, they would have found out something by now.
okay. I was about to say, how the hell did they not find out?
Yeah. This
What
was,
if-
I mean, mind you, this was back in 1948.
Long
This-
time
So,
ago.
yeah, technology. Oh God.
Yeah.
You know, alternate theory though, I wonder if the Morse code isn't actually like some mysterious meaning. Like, what if it was somebody who was on the ship who didn't know how to do Morse code, like some sort of passenger of some type, and they were like just desperate, like all this something horrible had happened, and they were just like banging on the Morse code machine. Like,
And it just
I
like
don't know what I'm saying.
The
but
sentence
just
like
help me.
lobster toilet.
Yeah, right.
OBS. That's
They
terrible.
just didn't know how to text back in the day.
It's literally like the 1940s version of banging your head on the keyboard.
Well,
Yeah.
The one class I didn't take, I knew
They were
it.
they were just face punching the space bar.
Why didn't I learn Morse code? Oh my god.
That's really hard. I don't think I have an input for that. I honestly at first I was gonna agree with chat and say pirates, right? But then as you dug deeper into the story, like nothing to be there, that blows my mind. Like nothing at all. Not one piece of evidence.
No trace.
Like
yeah.
not even a piece of clothing like swimming in the
Yeah.
ocean. Like nothing.
From experience of just reading up on pirates, they love to leave their mark on anything.
Yeah,
that they
uh-huh.
And
do.
they're
That's what I was-
stabby.
yep.
They like to stab. And it sounds
Yeah.
like these people were not
They were just
brutally
petrified.
right. Like that's a completely how would pirates have done that? Like they just spooked them to death. They like climbed on and they
Right.
were like boo, and people just like
And this
like,
this
I don't
was
think
a
so. No.
this was a transport ship, a ship that was just transporting goods. Like this wasn't a vessel for customers or just citizens of trying to like go from one place to another. This was a work ship.
If you don't know this information, it's fine. I now I'm very intrigued. Is there like an actual coordinate of like where this took place?
Mm.
There probably is, but when they found it, it wasn't there. It drifted ways away from where the call came from.
Mm.
Okay. Because I'm like, I'm just thinking till like this day, like, how has not someone like from in a historical role like tried to?
Well, let me give you a little bit of perspective outside of this story. How
Sure.
because it's weird that it also has to do with some part of Indonesia. The Malaysian airline, what is it, like 373 or something like
I
that?
was
Yep.
thinking about that
Oh
plane.
my
Apparently
God.
disappeared around
Yeah.
Yeah,
Indonesia as well.
Yeah.
So there's got to be like
that
some
just
sort
gave
of
me
Bermuda
goosebumps.
Triangle
Thinking
going
about
on
that
in that
plane
area.
gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
That one freaks me out. And as we talk about how old some of these stories are, like that's a recent event. That plane went missing, I don't know what year, but it was not more than 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Like it was in the last 5 to 10 years that plane went missing. Um,
Right.
and that was so scary because how can a whole plane, big plane, full of a lot of people disappear
Just go.
and there is no debris, there is no nothing? Like, I don't know, man. I know the Pacific Ocean is a big place, but that
We can't even fathom how big the ocean is.
no,
We can't, and that's gonna be the biggest thing about like all of this. Because just imagine what was. Oh my God! Correct me if I'm wrong, but statistically, from what was told by a bunch of scientists and um, anyone of a historical role has stated that us as humankind have only searched about 4% of the
Oh
ocean,
yeah. Yeah, the ocean
of
is
the
just
ocean
like a
itself.
a
Like,
vast piece of this world that we just
yeah,
haven't discovered
I'm very
and
much
completely.
team. We don't need to explore Mars. We need to
No.
explore the
the
ocean.
ocean,
Like all
yeah.
of those
Yeah,
Let's
we
get our
resources.
shit
how are we
together
yeah,
We
first,
need
how
to
are
figure
we
out
gonna
what's
America.
going on
for
here
real.
first.
For
We need to
real.
address
And
our
Terrible.
home situation.
and
What is
and
down there?
right. Before we continue with this, we Jojo did ask what the Bermuda Triangle was, and I just want to say it is a region in the North Atlantic Ocean where ships, planes, what have you, have just mysteriously vanished. So that's what I was referring Indonesia to. Like, what if Indonesia has some sort of a
I've
you
heard there's
know
multiple
Bermuda
Bermuda
Triangle?
Triangles
You
because
know
when you
what?
say the North,
Yeah.
I've heard there's multiple because you say the North Atlantic, but when I think of the Bermuda Triangle, the one I've read about is like in the Caribbean, um,
Right.
which
Right.
is, I guess, kind of North Atlantic ish. Is
Put
there
it into
another one up
short
there?
terms, guys. That's not a place for vacation.
Yeah, there's a lot of
No,
cruises that go on there, but like, bro, like, there's some
that's filled with
weird,
crazy people like you.
But
weird.
yeah,
No,
yeah, Jojo, that could be a thing. It could be its own Bermuda Triangle around Indonesia, and we just don't even
it's
know.
possible. It's very possible.
Ooh.
But the on
That
on
ship
the
is the type of story that makes me believe that type of stuff. There's just like, what could be the explanation? That's crazy.
yeah. So I'm gonna give you guys my next story. Doesn't have to do with this crazy stuff. It unfortunately has to do with murder. On April 11th, 1981, Sheila Sharp spent the night with her friend next door to her home in Cabin 28 at this resort called the Ketty Resort. She came home, and mind you, this is in Pennsylvania. Uh, she she came home to change clothes for church when she discovered three bodies inside covered in blood. She would later learn that the victims would be her mother, her brother, and her brother's friend. But somehow, her two other brothers and their friend were unharmed in the spare bedroom. A hammer and a knife were recovered at the scene. Investigators later determined someone was missing from the home, which was Sheila's 12-year-old sister. The problem with the boys is that were left alive was that they said they witnessed it, but also said they were dreaming. So maybe they did witness it and they were in such a shock that they believed they dreamed the whole thing. But
That can
three
be a coping
years,
mechanism.
Yeah. So 3 years later, someone collecting bottles 100 miles from Ketty found human remains that were later identified as Tina, the 12-year-old sister. Shortly after news broke of the
Oh
discovery, a mysterious
no.
phone call came into the sheriff's office from an unidentified number saying, I was watching the news and they were talking about the girl. I was wondering if you thought of the murder up in Ketty a couple years ago, where a 12-year-old girl was never found. And that was the mysterious phone call. There were two primary suspects, which were the neighbor and his friend. The neighbor told investigators he was missing a hammer, and that hammer was later found, not even later, like we're talking 2016, in a pond near that same cabin. That hammer was found, an extra hammer, so he can have an alibi, that it was actually stolen. He then fled Ketty after the murders, and what may be telling is that he wrote a letter to his then wife. I've paid the price of your love, and now I've bought it with 4 people's lives. The neighbor died in 2006, and his friend died in 1988. Investigators believe that there were 2 more involved, but nobody was ever brought in. Thoughts?
Talk about taking secrets to the grave.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Ooh.
Yeah. There were clear signs / evidence of this neighbor being the practically sole suspect.
But was it factually proven?
It wasn't, because
No.
he ended up living his life up until, 2006.
Wow. Not even after death.
Yeah. For 25 years, he lived a life after the murder.
And that brings me
crazy.
back. That brings me back to the conversation that we just had, Kim, about the mindset of people. You know what I mean? Like that's class S. I got away with it
Yeah.
right there.
That is sick. Yeah.
And I did have a little typo in this. It was actually California. My other topic is in Philly, but
Oh, in
yeah, this
Pennsylvania.
one,
Okay.
this one was in California.
Mm.
That shit sounds like Cali hits different. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Wow.
Callie hits a little too hard. Yeah.
That's I don't know what to say or like feel about it, because they're just like they just stop, like, oh, he's dead, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
prime suspect
They
is dead. This whole entire case is just irrelevant at this point. Put it to the
Right.
back,
My
boys.
Yeah, right. My thought though is like, how can someone who can do something like that also be the kind of person who can stop for that long? Like usually these people get caught because they can't stop and they keep going. So like wh-
That's why I
Well,
said
That's
that's why I
terrifying.
this goes
said
back to the note that he ended up leaving his wife,
Mm.
where uh he was saying, he paid for his life and bought it with 4 others.
wow.
So he made a deal with the devil.
Right? The devil made him do it.
The devil made him do it.
We'll never know, because he's gone and nothing ever came
But
of this.
so, and you know what really grinds my gears? It's just the fact that there's no continuation to like the case.
Mhm.
Obviously a lot of people here might have like saw like, shows like cold cases, stuff like that, where they've dug to like 50 plus years of old cases to solve them. Like I honestly, so first off, I haven't heard of this story. And so that's why
I
it,
hadn't
it,
either.
it intrigues me a lot. Second, why isn't this story known? Like, who's trying to hide stuff?
Right.
Right, especially because there's suspected more people could have been involved and
Exactly.
maybe they're still alive. So you'd think there would be some sense of, I don't a little bit of urgency, a little bit of like, yeah, we need to like find out who else was involved before they croak too. Like,
And a lot of the horror movies today, like same shit, different movie.
mhm,
And it's just like, why aren't you taking that?
this ripe material.
Yeah, it's perfect. Like, I would want to watch that just to see how someone would produce it and verge it into like their story, like I guess their image of the story. Because
Right.
I think the story's not that it's fantastic that people got murdered, but it's just the fact that
It's amazing.
it
10 out of 10.
Class S. It's just so odd that that itself is not known, maybe besides local people in that area. Like, oh,
Right.
that's the house of the murder.
Mhm.
And I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's nothing about it. There's just nothing. No one talks about it. No movie.
Does it
There's
even state like any movies or like any documentaries or nothing that's like relevant to it?
nothing.
That's wild.
One day it'll happen. That's too good not to at least do a documentary on.
This is the start, guys. We need to become producers. This is how we're gonna get rich. Like, this is the story.
Yes.
Do you guys? So I have a question here. Let me bring out my phone. Oh, here it is. I remembered the question. If any of you guys have this, I would love to know. And if not, it's okay, because this is my my favorite form of, I guess you can say, murder or mystery. Do you guys have any stories about hotels?
I do.
No, I
I
was
have a
trying to
story.
look for something specific, but I ended up finding these first, and I was like, I'll stick with these.
Well, now I'm intrigued. Tell me about your hotel story.
All right. So, LA, California. There is a hotel called the Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel has been around for like 100 years. It's been around since like the early 1900s. And over the years, it has developed quite a reputation. I believe American Horror Story featured like their whole hotel season was uh, inspired, at least in great part, by the Cecil Hotel. Um, you've got your standard run of the mill strange string of suicides over the years from like the 40s to the 60s. Like a number of people jumped out of the Cecil Hotel and ended their lives. The one that I found quite notable was one who jumped and landed on someone below who's walking on the sidewalk. The person on the sidewalk also died immediately. Because like, oh my gosh, can you imagine you're just walking down the street and then
Jump.
Right?
you probably don't even, I would imagine like if you don't hear, see, you don't look up,
Just playing
like
Pokemon Go and like
just
and just a flop. Like, that's yikes.
oh
I can't
my
even
God.
imagine. No, I can't even imagine that.
That's crazy. So there was also like some other like interesting and strange things about the Cecil Hotel, quite a lot. But there's one case in particular that has always been like interesting to me. And it was about a girl named Elisa Lamb. Some people may remember there was like some viral footage that went viral when this happened in 2013. And it's footage of her in it's security camera footage of her in an elevator of the hotel, and she looks like she's behaving very erratically. She's looking out of the elevator. She's like standing there. She's also standing in the elevator. And like one thing I always like kind of like thought when I was watching it, I was like, the elevator doors aren't closing. Like she presses all the buttons and she stands there and this video goes on for like 2 minutes, maybe a little more. Like it's not a 10-second clip. It's not a 30-second clip. So, like you're watching and watching, you're like, why isn't the elevator like going? And as you're thinking that, she's starting to like, yeah, be like looking out of the elevator, looking around like she's kind of scared. At some points, it looks like maybe she's laughing or giggling.
Oh, hell no.
At some points, it looks like she's maybe talking to something that there's nothing there, like in the
Right.
footage.
I remember seeing that video back in high school, dude, and I used to think it was one of those just really good edited videos.
Yeah,
And then come
no,
to find out that it was a
Joke's on
real
you, bro.
thing.
That shit's
Real.
real.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Continue.
It was very strange footage. I was also very like struck when I watched it. I thought it was very strange, very concerning, uh, because this young woman unfortunately was found after she had been missing for a number of days, where she was found in the water tank on top of the building, deceased. And one of the creepy parts of this case, which is kind of gross, but the reason they found her there was because the residents of the hotel had complained that their water was murky and tasted bad. And turns out it's because her body was decomposing in the water tank that the hotel used for guests to drink and bathe in. So when they got those reports, they went and looked in the water tank, and there she was. Now, this wasn't easy to get to, this water tank on the top of the hotel. Like, there's only one door to go up internally in the building, and it's locked, and there's an alarm if you do get past the lock. The only other way to get up,
in there?
there's a number of fire escapes, and there's no security cameras like on the fire escapes. At least at that time, there was not. So she must have climbed up the fire escape or somehow got through a locked door with an alarm. And she had to climb up this huge water tank on top of this huge building. Like, I would have to be terrified to do something like that, because that sounds terrifying to me straight off. Like, I don't want to climb this. No. Are you kidding me? No. And she, and she's inside this water tank. And that's where they find her body. And it did end up to be determined or revealed. Like, her death was ruled an accidental drowning. There was no like evidence of foul play on her body. There was no wound. The autopsy report, I actually read the real like report. I guess it was public. Anyway.
Shit's fake. It was all fake.
No.
You grabbed the wrong one. Some 12-year-old just did it for.
She actually wrote it down herself.
No, it's in my sticky notes.
Yeah.
No. But I was looking for something really definitive in the autopsy report to say, like, she drowned. Like, I want it. And it does say accidental drowning, but like I wanted something that said there was like water in the lungs, or something that was like a real, biological like indicator that she drowned, and not just that her body had been dumped and then decomposed in the tank. And I couldn't really tell from the autopsy report. It almost read to me like perhaps her body was in a state of decomposition where indicators like that maybe weren't going to be present. Like, her body was saturated. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But there were no other wounds on her. So the idea that she was so scared that she was running from something in this hotel, and this was the only place that she could get to hide, or to get away from it, at least in her mind, is terrifying, because she drowned in this water tank, presumably, unless there's some sort of other reason that we don't know about. However, to sort of provide the other side of the story, so to speak, it was later determined and revealed that she did have a history of some mental health issues. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and had some history of having hallucinations. So it is possible that this is what caused her to do all of that. But the reason that a lot of people found it kind of interesting or curious is that this happened in a place where there had already been so many strange occurrences. As a matter of fact, I don't know if anyone's heard of Richard Ramirez, but
Yes.
he is a serial killer in
Yes.
LA, and he stayed there.
Oh my God. Wait, Richard Ramirez stayed in LA?
Yeah, he stayed in the Cecil Hotel. Like, he was a one of their like residents that would come and stay like on and off. Yeah.
I have a story that
Oh.
connects to your story. Richard
Oh.
Ramirez. Guys, if you do not know who this serial killer is,
He's
please look.
crazy.
You need to look at his documentary. I'm gonna.
He's wild.
Wow, that's actually really crazy, because of the fact that Richard Ramirez actually he did murder in LA, but he was originally from El Paso, Texas.
Mhm.
And so obviously we know he's a murderer, but there's a mystery behind him, and it's pretty insane. Check it out. So, serial killer and Satan worshiper from El Paso, Texas, Richard Ramirez was known as the man who rewrote the books of serial murders in 1984. He did practice dark magic in a specific place called the Concordia Cemetery in El Paso. So he died to a disease that he had after being sentenced to prison. So after his death, though, a decade later, they found a tree where exactly the spot where he used to practice dark magic that grew. So this is the mystery that I want to see where you guys think. Everybody in chat, please. So a decade later, a tree grew from the exact same spot of his practice in the shape of a pitchfork, designed like the devil's pitchfork. Now, unsure if this is related or not. And this is what I wanted to talk about hotels. 6 minutes away from that cemetery, there was a hotel called the DeSoto Hotel. If you guys do not know what the DeSoto Hotel is, a lot of paranormal investigators actually have went to that hotel as there was known as one of the most haunted locations because there was a demonic entity said to lurk in the basement. Okay. So not only were rumors spread around by, people of the area and just facts from paranormal investigators, but the tenants who lived there have openly spoke about, I fear the basement. I will never go to the basement. Managers themselves who manage the hotel, I went there once, never will I go again. Okay. So unsure if there's any relation to this or not. But the DeSoto Hotel caught on fire recently in 2022.
Oh.
With the
Somebody
results
successfully exercised it.
That's the wrong way to do it, homie. But with the results from El Paso fire marshal stating that the cause was undetermined.
That's fair.
Spooky radar going off.
So
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Now, so they said that it was undetermined, right?
Mhm.
But the building itself never fell.
So it's just like a burned out husk.
Yeah.
Ah, creepy.
And all the floors,
Hey.
majority of the floors were still holding. But the huge major damage was on the roof.
So the demon in the basement protected itself.
And so that's the weird part about it. How are you not able to determine where the fire came from if majority of the building is still up that you can investigate?
For real.
You know what I
They're
mean?
Scared. They're too scared to
It's always the
investigate.
basements too. Like, why is it
Always the
always a basement?
It's
Because they
it's
like
the
to
darkest
be
and coldest
close to
place,
hell.
homie. Haven't you played
Like,
Phasmophobia?
so
Basements are always cold on the thermometer, bro.
that goes back to
Freezing temps.
believing in that stuff, because while it's never happened to me, in the old house that I used to live in with my family when I was like, I don't know, 5 years old or something, whatever. So we went to Mexico, and my parents had a friend watch the house while we were gone. So we had a basement, a finished basement, but there was also a little closet entrance into a crawl space where we would just, store a bunch of random stuff there. Like the crawl space was cemented in and everything. Like there was
Yeah, like normal
it was
crawl
not,
space.
it was not like just rock bed,
Yeah.
it was cement stuff. Anyway, so, I would always play in there. I didn't never had any
You're
issues with my
insane.
brother and friends
You're a
and stuff. We'd play
psycho.
card games and stuff. But anyways,
Bruh.
so the guy that was watching the house, he actually ended up hearing banging from the door and ended up being so scared he left the table in front of the door and never watched the house again.
He literally said, "You cannot pay me to come back to your
For
haunted
real.
ass
Yeah.
house."
And that none of us had experience like that at the house. None of us.
That's wild.
Now, I just want to say, you can't call him crazy because you would own fucking property of a haunted location versus
I
him just
wouldn't
going
go
to
in
a
the
crawl space.
crawl space. Are you joking?
Why not?
You think
Why?
I want to get possessed? That's
Oh,
like you're just asking.
But you'd own property to, where people died.
Where's
Well,
the
you know.
logic, brother?
I would
that
just go
doesn't-
investigate periodically,
That makes
safely,
no
and not go
sense.
in the crawl space.
makes
Yes,
no
it does.
No, you have to go in the crawl space.
Yeah, you have to.
No,
Why not?
no.
It's almost a necessity.
He's
Like you're
possessed.
obligated.
He
You
got
know,
possessed in that crawl
that's what
space, and he's been
that's why
possessed
they
ever
call it
since.
a crawl space.
No,
I'm just
no,
saying.
because there's demons crawling around in there. That's why they call it a
But
crawl space.
that was a really interesting story about the fact that you both connected your last stories together.
I just find it
Connections.
weird that she actually mentioned Richard Ramirez because just that alone, Concordia Cemetery is also one of like the biggest haunted locations in El Paso, Texas. Is actually place they call the Devil's Bed Rest.
Oh,
So there's a lot of people who but took, I guess, the fact of Richard Ramirez's, in his practice and did it there, and they actually leave a lot of stuff there that
right.
they don't
Oh,
refresh.
like
Like,
super fans.
and I'm talking about like also people who practice. Like they like next to
Oh,
like tombstones, they leave like jars of like shit inside with like dead animals, sacrificed animals. They leave like
bro.
beheaded statues of like Jesus there. They leave shit for people to find. If that
Oh,
makes
Weird.
okay. Yeah.
it,
Okay.
and to have like to have a tree designed as a pitchfork of where fucking of where he actually practiced. Richard Ramirez practice is that's kind of like not ironic, but like it's just
Oh,
weird.
it's is it ironic or is it iconic? I think is the question you have to ask yourself.
Damn, that just blew my mind. That just
No, but like it's weird how some people, yeah, will go to like such lengths to try and keep lore alive because that's what that sounds like to me. But the tree thing is crazy. The tree
speaking
thing creeps me out.
speaking of
Yeah.
lore, I need to ask you guys this because I'm about to blow both your minds. But before we do that, do you guys have any more stories?
I have one last story.
I need to. And
Shoot.
Kim, do you have another story after this or not?
I am good.
Okay, go ahead, Z.
So this story is called The Boy in the Box. On February 23rd, 1957, a body of an unidentified boy was found in a cardboard box wrapped in a blanket. The body was found in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The unnamed young boy, or an unnamed young man around his 20s, was the one who found the box. He freaked out and actually waited a day or so to report the body to the police. The sources on how he found the body were very scattered. Like one source would say he was reluctant to tell the cops because he had rabbit traps around there and didn't want the traps to be confiscated. Other source would say he was driving and stopped to chase a rabbit. And even one source said he was en route to spy on inmates at a Catholic residence for wayward girls. Regardless, the story somehow ended with him and rabbits in some sort of way. When the cops got to the body, they find him naked and wrapped in the blanket in the box. His hair was recently cut
Huh?
and his body was recently washed. There were small scars on his chin, groin, and left ankle, some of which proved he went through a small medical procedure. He had blunt force trauma on the head, which was determining factor of death. In order to identify the body, he was kept in a morgue while visitors from 10 different states tried to look for identifiable marks to no avail. Police sent out 400,000 flyers of the boy to police stations, post office, courthouses all over the country. Even the American Medical Association sent out a description of the boy, but it led nowhere. The police compared the boy's footprints to hospitals in the area and even took fingerprints, but no record showed the boy ever existed. It was not until 2022 when they finally found a name for the boy. There was a breakthrough using DNA and genetic genealogy techniques that revolutionized cold case work, which helped identify the boy to be Joseph Augustus Zarelli. And that is the only thing they found on the boy. Since 1957, it took up until 2022 to just find a name for the boy.
Hell no.
Did the name not yield any like family connections? Was there no way to like use the name to get like the context of what happened to this child?
There was never any from my research I couldn't find anything continuing past his name.
Wow. That's insane.
So
Ma-
it's almost as if that name was also just random. Like
How they're just like, how do they even determine
right.
that?
Well, and like the part that tripped me up the most, I mean, all of that was wild.
I was about to say
roller
the
coaster,
part.
start to finish.
The-
Yeah, no, that was all crazy. But like the incision, which implies like some sort of medical procedure has been done. Like, what? What?
body
What?
testing.
Bro.
I don't know how to feel about that one. I don't know what to think
That
about that one.
heck.
That's
Yeah.
all the information. There's so little. It's so little information for 50
Mhm.
plus years. 50 plus years, that's all you get.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm. I believe that's a true mystery. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's I'm gonna give you the biggest mystery. Guys, so everybody in chat, I just want to say, for those who stayed, you guys deserve this. But we do have a trigger warning here. That this episode heavily features content that some viewers may find upsetting. Our topic revolves about murders, strange mysteries, and tragic deaths. Viewer discretion is advised. Just wanted to state that, even though that you guys know this is 18 plus, but this is this story here, or concept of murder or mystery, I'm about to unveil. So, guys, I just want to say, besides Z, the one that, so I focused a lot of the locations that you guys were talking about before I wanted to talk about this story. And the only one that I didn't connect with that I see so far is Indonesia. But have any of you heard about the pentagram of blood?
Of
No.
blood.
A pentagram of blood. So, chat, please go ahead and comment if you guys have ever heard or know anything specific about the pentagram of blood. It is also known as the Devil's Pathway. A lot of it where 666 came to be. Okay. Essentially, what it is for the pentagram of blood. If you actually draw the pentagram over the United States map, which also hits parts of Mexico and Canada. Cities and towns all align on the path of the drawn pentagram. They mark areas of major natural disasters, tragedies, and mass casualties. So I wanted to actually pinpoint some of very little. I'm just gonna name only a few, okay, of the ones that cross the path. However, if we start on the bottom left of the star, right, where it starts off is actually located in Mexico, where they had the Pyramid of the Sun, which was where they had an altar of human sacrifices. If you guys didn't know as well, in 2010, Juarez, Mexico was known as murder capital of the world. As you start drawing the star up for its first pathway, it first goes through Dallas, Texas, which is obviously the state connecting near and towards Mexico, where JFK was assassinated. Also leading into Waco, Texas, where the whole David Koresh Waco massacre happened in 1993. If you lead up to the peak of the star, for all my Canadian friends out there, the peak crosses and ends near a location called Manitoba, Canada, where it touches a place called God's Lake, where there was a state of emergency declared after 4 young people were found dead by suicide, along with 22 other attempts in 2019.
Oh my God.
Now, just stating some other locations that we've talked about. The Cecil Hotel touched
It's on
on the
this.
star. Yep. The Oklahoma City bombing
Oh shit.
runs past the
Okay.
star. Yes.
Oh.
And that's just a few locations out of 9/11 New York.
That's
Oh
wild.
shit.
Yes. It keeps going more and more and more the more you dig into it. But I will say that if you guys do have a location that you want to research within the United States, part of Mexico or Canada, you guys can actually type in the pentagram of blood on Google. It'll show you a few maps, and it'll just show all major accidents, disasters, casualties, tragedies that happened in our area. And
That's
so,
wild.
and one of the biggest quotes from the devil is, "Your path is drawn by your blood."
Ominous.
Yeah.
Very ominous.
Um,
I
and so
dig it.
I want to know what you guys think about that concept itself. Obviously, somebody can just draw a star, and be like, "Oh, okay, let me slap this on a map. We're good. Tragedies happen." But just imagine that the actual pathway itself, like not distorting the star itself, it's an actual straight line and crossing all those locations. Like, what do you guys feel? How do you feel about it? Is that something that you find stupid? Is it like non-belief?
Ah,
What's your take on it?
I've never heard
Very,
this.
very coincidental.
It is, but like, okay. Question. I'm terrible at geography, so that devil made me do it. The David Glotzel possession with Arnie and everything. That was in Connecticut.
It connects in
Where does that
Connecticut.
fall?
It
Bro,
connects in Connecticut.
stop it.
Yep.
No.
On the top right.
Amityville.
What are the odds?
Oh,
Mhm.
what do you mean?
Yeah, what are the odds?
The odds are like I would think very small. I think that's very odd, very strange. Do you not agree?
I mean, the fact that it keeps like going the more you dig.
That leaves you more
Mm,
skeptical? Interesting.
yeah. It's
Explain.
just
Keep going. No, I'm
is
intrigued to
it
what Z is
never
saying.
ending?
It's the star itself.
Sure. Yeah. It,
The star ends, it obviously closes.
yeah. But how far? Like,
So like it
because if you're just gonna keep going,
that's true. 100%. That's true. But just so the star itself was, I mean, if you kind of like map it around the world, right? Like I haven't seen it mapped around the world. All I've seen it is wrap around to Canada, um, United States and
Mexico.
Mexico.
right? Right.
And if there was, like, if I were to dig more deep into this, I personally haven't seen. I tried to find one where if it was like across the world, like I asked myself, why only the United States? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if someone says
'Cause,
Illuminati, I swear. But
Jojo, now's your time.
no, stop.
No.
But just knowing that, I mean, you can even look from part of the map. It even has Hurricane Katrina onto it as well, and its pathway.
See, it just
It's
seems too
yeah,
coincidental for me. It just
But
why?
see,
Because it's
that's
all of
so
these big ones.
well, I mean, not necessarily. Like the fact that that Connecticut possession falls under this, that's not a huge tragedy. It's really spooky.
It's not. It's huge in terms of the fact that the guy was he was he was found not guilty, right?
No, he had to do 10 to 20 years for self-defense. He changed his plea because the judge wouldn't allow any demonic possession uh evidence. It wasn't
Okay.
that the judge rejected the plea. He like kind of sidestepped rejecting the plea and he like instead was like, you just can't bring any demon evidence in here. So that, So he changed his plea, but he served. He was charged with manslaughter,
Okay. Gotcha.
which some would say is a tragedy upon his life. He was truly possessed, when this happened.
That's obviously the mystery behind it, but
Jojo's telling us he only did 6 years.
He was sentenced for 10 to 20, but that's right. He did get out earlier, probably on parole, good behavior, that sort of a thing. But he was sentenced for 10 to 20.
so you don't think it's just like weird in any way? You think it's more of a coincidence that if you were to just
Yeah.
draw the star like in an upwards pattern, how it's supposed to be, that alone itself.
Coincidence.
It's a coincidence that that very shape is like a shape that's like associated with dark forces.
Mm-hmm.
No, just coincidental.
It's just coincidental.
Oh my gosh.
It's I'm gonna be the skeptic here. I'm sorry, not
Okay, no,
sorry.
I mean, we disagree on every podcast, so I am ready. So I just want to know, like, your thoughts of why you're skeptical about that. You know what I mean? Like, what in it itself does it make you?
Because it just seems too good to be true.
So you
Like,
think
how
what,
is
like
how is
this was like set up, like people like got
No,
together
I'm
and
not saying it would
decided
be
to have
set up.
fake
Yeah, right.
tragedies all
all these-
along this line.
Well, here,
Let's-
so
it's
hold
the
on.
Illuminati.
So
Slum.
shut up. That's not that's not an answer
They
here.
planned it all
But
along.
so in a way, shape, or form, Venus. So this is where like I'm gonna jump with him in a little bit sense, but yeah, kind of like you kind of just stick the star on the map. Somebody did it and said, "Oh, this is what it is."
Here's
You know
what
I
we
mean?
need.
But it's
I
just
need a
too
map
much.
that shows me a bunch of tragedies that aren't on that pentagram.
And
Like I
that's what
gotta
was
weigh
gonna
it
say.
out.
That's
I
what I
gotta
was gonna
weigh it
say.
out.
Yes, I
Mhm.
think, but there's too much of a coincidence to be just considered a coincidence. There's just too many factors of like it happening to where it's just like, oh, this, it's just there. Like it's not facts. Like the star goes through all these places, but it's not facts. Like, no, that's more than a coincidence now. That's where I disagree with you. Honestly.
Well, and it kind of comes back to like a theory that some people have about ley lines, which is like this concept that there are like these sort of invisible grid lines or markers in our geography that sort of connect with the paranormal. Like there's certain areas or coordinates that are where the veil is thinner, so to speak. So this kind of like the lines on the map kind of are giving the same vibe.
I want to know why you haven't changed your answer. Because you're just giving me that it's a
I'm
coincidence.
just gonna be a skeptic. Yeah, I'm just gonna be a skeptic.
You're just gonna be the
about it. Like,
skeptic.
It's just like, I don't agree.
New
This
plan.
line sucks.
Buy the haunted house and we make Z live in it.
We're not, you crazy.
I'll do it.
No.
He goes, I'll do it.
You're buying the house?
I mean, I won't buy it.
Oh, then you're not crazy.
It's a waste of time
And
and money.
That's
And
the
money?
reason why.
Nah, you get your money.
Yeah.
That's the reason why, because it's a waste of
I'll,
time.
like,
Not for the
I'll
fact
let-
that it's
I'll let
fucking
Venus
it's
buy
haunted.
it. I'll
Oh,
let
no,
Venus
I'm
buy it.
good.
Be like,
I'm
yeah,
good.
just open up the doors for me, dog.
It's the worst.
Terrible. Well, guys, I wanted to say that if there's any other stories that you have, or Chad, if you have some magical story up to play, guys, I think that would be what we have here for Murder or Mystery within the podcast. First of all, I want to say that this was some actually interesting stuff. Do you guys think there's a part 2 coming into play? I really did.
Possibility.
I really did enjoy the fact, that I got to hear some stories that I didn't know. That makes me kind of mad that I didn't know. But what do you feel? How do you feel?
Honestly, I think just that pentagram of blood could be its own episode if we
Deep dive it.
deep dive.
I think so.
On top of that, we did have JoJo and Spammy give us a couple recommendations to look into.
Ooh.
It was one of them was a hotel as well. From
I love me my hotel horror
Spammy said looking into H.H. Holmes. He's a hotel killer.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was Queen Mary's Ship. It's a hotel in Long Beach, California.
Why do you?
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah, I was about to say your face just like blew. What?
I can't place any details, but like that sounds so familiar. I feel like I've read about that and like brain dumped. I want to go read about it now.
All right, guys. So I think that there may be a part 2 involved, guys, but I just wanted to say, everybody, this is the end right here. Thank you guys so much for tuning into Podkrew with Murder or mystery. If you guys haven't already, guys, we do have social media all around in probably your favorite platforms, as well as we are coming to Spotify. So please, guys, if you haven't already, check us out in the Discord to stay connected with us. If you haven't already, I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, we're pretty great people. I think that we're pretty great. Minus Z, it's just a coincidence. Don't you see what I did there? No?
Coincidence, I'm here.
My bad. I hate you. Anyways, guys, we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, guys, every other Thursday, we go into the podcast. We talk about our favorite topics, facts, and what we think about them. You already know what it is, family. We appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.